Picture this. You're at your husband's funeral, pouring your heart out about 46 years of love, when your daughter-in-law smirks and calls your tears a lie, in front of everyone. That's where Diane Miller's story starts, in a small-town chapel where grief collides with betrayal. This isn't just a tale of a cruel jab, it's a roller coaster of family secrets, a cunning will, and a fight to protect what matters most. Stick around, you'll see how one man's final act outsmarted a schemer and saved his family from ruin. The air in St. Luke's Chapel in Maplewood, Oregon, was heavy with the scent of lilies and rain-soaked coats. Diane, 67, sat in the front pew, her hands trembling as she stared at the walnut coffin holding her husband, Richard. After 46 years, his absence was a physical ache, like a piece of her soul had been carved out. Richard had been her rock, quick with a laugh, steady in a crisis, the guy who'd dance with her in the kitchen to old Motown records. Now, he was gone, and Diane was adrift. As the organ droned, "Abide with me," Diane's daughter, Emily, slid beside her, eyes swollen from crying. Emily had been Richard's sidekick, always helping him fix up their old sailboat or giggling at his cheesy puns. But Diane's son, Stephen, sat a few rows back, his wife, Nicole, perched beside him. Nicole's designer black dress and flashy diamond studs screamed money, out of place among Maplewood's flannel jeans crowd. Her presence was a cold reminder of the gap that had widened between Diane and Stephen, a chasm built on years of small slights. Diane stood to speak, her voice cracking but firm. "Richard was my everything," she said, tears streaming. "He showed me love is built in the tough moments, standing together no matter what." As she spoke, Nicole leaned toward a friend, her voice sharp enough to pierce the hush. "Oh, please, those tears are fake. Their marriage was dead years ago, everyone knows it." Gasps echoed through the chapel. Emily's face flushed with rage, but Stephen just stared at his hands, his silence louder than any defense. Diane froze, Nicole's words a gut punch. For decades of love, dismissed as a lie in front of family and friends. She gripped the podium, refusing to let Nicole's poison break her. Nicole's stunt is pure venom, a calculated move to steal the spotlight and paint herself as the victim. It's a classic play in toxic family dynamics, use public shame to control the narrative. Psychologically, it reeks of narcissism, a need to dominate by tearing others down. It also hits a nerve. Society often doubts women's emotions, labeling them as drama. This sets up the story's heart, truth versus deception, and shows how a single lie can ripple through a family. The funeral ended in awkward silence, and 2 days later, the family gathered at the office of Richard's lawyer, Mr. Kessler, in a brick building downtown. Nicole sat with her legs crossed, scrolling her phone, her impatience obvious. Diane, still stinging from the chapel, braced herself. Richard had always been a planner, every decision deliberate. She knew his will would reflect that. Mr. Kessler handed Diane a letter from Richard, which she read aloud, her voice wavering. "My family, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. I've lived a good life, built with Diane. To Emily and Stephen, I've tried to teach you what counts: honesty, loyalty, love. This will isn't about grudges, it's about what's right. Trust me one last time." The words landed like a vow, heavy with meaning. Mr. Kessler started the reading. To Diane, Richard left their cozy beachfront bungalow and a monthly stipend to keep her comfortable. To Emily, he gave $95,000 and his vintage record player, a nod to their shared love of jazz. But to Stephen, he left just $8,000, a shock next to a $250,000 trust fund for Stephen's son, Noah, to cover school and medical costs, with Diane and Mr. Kessler as co-trustees. Nicole's eyes blazed. $8,000. That's an insult, she spat. Stephen's his son. Mr. Kessler coolly explained that Richard had tracked $280,000 in loans to Stephen, money for Nicole's luxury spa weekends, a custom motorcycle, a failed crypto venture. Contesting the will would expose these debts publicly. Nicole's face paled, her confidence cracking. Stephen slouched, avoiding Diane's gaze. Richard's will is a bombshell, not just splitting assets but laying bare his values. By prioritizing Noah and Diane, he shields the vulnerable and sidesteps Nicole's greed. It's a real-world tactic, wills as tools to protect legacy, not just bank accounts. Richard saw Nicole's grip on Stephen, a pattern you see in families where one partner drains resources. The trust fund for Noah is a fortress, ensuring his future without Nicole's meddling. It's a father's love, written in steel. Days later, Diane found a steel key in an envelope Richard left with Mr. Kessler, with a note, "For when you need it most. Yours always, R." The key opened a safe in Richard's den, tucked behind a shelf of sailing books. Inside was a folder marked, "Diane's Truth." The contents were a gut-wrench, bank statements showing Nicole siphoning funds from Stephen's accounts to her own, texts where she mocked Richard as a cash machine, a divorce consultation email, dated 8 months ago, planning to ditch Stephen after securing an inheritance. Richard had hired a private investigator in his final months, suspecting Nicole's game. The folder was his trump card, a shield for Stephen. Diane wrestled with the truth. Showing Stephen could crush him, but hiding it might leave him in Nicole's claws. She thought of Richard's quiet strength, his belief that facing hard truths builds character. But before she could decide, Stephen appeared at the bungalow, a duffel bag in hand, his face drawn. "I'm done with her," he said, voice rough. "She bragged about scamming Dad's money, said I was just her meal ticket." This is the story's pivot. Stephen's choice to walk away, even without the evidence, shows a spark of the man Richard raised. It's a question we all face: when does sparing someone pain trap them in a lie? Diane's struggle is raw, love wants to protect, but truth demands guts. This moment gives Stephen agency, proving he's not just Nicole's puppet. It's drama at its best, a son waking up to betrayal. Diane handed Stephen the folder, watching shock turn to grief, then resolve. "Dad saw it all," Stephen said, voice low. "He knew I was blind." They sat late, unraveling Nicole's web. Stephen admitted he'd ignored warning signs, Nicole's lavish spending, her coldness toward Noah, her push to cut Diane out. The folder was a lifeline, Richard's final gift. They planned their next move. Stephen filed for divorce, using Richard's evidence to win custody of Noah. Nicole's lies collapsed in court, her texts and bank records a news she'd tied herself. She tried a tearful defense, claiming Richard had it out for her, but the judge saw through it. The truth, as Richard planned, cut deeper than any lie. A year later, Diane stood in the bungalow's backyard, watching Noah kick a soccer ball across the grass. Stephen manned the grill, joking with Emily as she set out a tray of iced tea. Emily, now running her own bakery, had moved back to Maplewood, her bond with Diane ironclad. The family had survived Nicole's vicious social media rants, Stephen's shame, and Diane's lonely nights, but they'd come out stronger. Stephen had settled into a modest duplex nearby, pouring his heart into Noah and a new job at a local marina. One night, Diane found a notebook Richard had kept during his illness, hidden in a desk drawer. The last page, in his neat scrawl, read, "Diane, my heart, you'll hold our family together. Stephen will find his way, I've made sure of it. Love is what lasts." She closed it, tears falling, but they were lighter now, mixed with pride. This isn't just about a will or a scheming in-law, it's about a family clawing back from betrayal. Richard's plan wasn't revenge, it was salvation, giving his loved ones a shot at redemption. Nicole's downfall wasn't just legal, it was the triumph of a family rooted in truth. I've seen families like this, torn apart by greed but rebuilt through grit. DramaTides is all about these stories, raw, real, and gripping. What's your take? Ever seen a family survive a betrayal this wild? Drop your city in the comments, I want to know how far this story hits. If you're hooked, Subscribe for more DramaTides tales of family fights and epic comebacks. Let's keep the drama rolling.